Yeah, that's right. I like this movie.
Oh, come on!
Yeah, I know a lot of you people that are pretty huge fans of the Chucky series just spit. Just literally just spit at me because I just said I like the Child's Play remake. Now, I'm gonna be honest. I did not think this movie should have been made. That I will not deny. This movie should not exist, but I'm kind of glad that it does. Um, okay, that was weird. But I'm really glad that it does exist. Now, I'm not going to say this movie is a masterpiece by any means. It has a crap load of issues, starting with, the fact that it's a remake is just one. I feel like a remake like this just should not exist. But for what it's worth, I'm glad they keep things fun. If they stayed away from the Chucky and the Child's Play label, this movie could have been a decent, fun AI commentary horror movie, but it's not. And even if it was and connected to the Child's Play franchise, it'd just be reminiscent of those films. If they just made it a typical AI doll, you would just kind of go like, oh, it's just like the Chucky doll. So, I can kind of see why, in a way, they just kind of went like, well, we're just going to remake it, with AI versus cult serial killer. Hey look, my channel just withered and died just from saying that mere sentence. And since YouTube hates me, unfortunately, for those of you with, a less than desirable attention span, you're just gonna have to deal with me talking and looking at a few clips from the movie, so while I talk about the good and bad moments about this. So, just to begin with the bad, first off, let me just say, again, remake, cannot stress that enough. This movie should not exist. That's just another big issue. The fact that this movie exists and you can tell it's trying to be part of, like, the Chucky. It's trying to be a Child's Play remake while also telling it in a, new way. So, it's admirable, but it's not what we wanted or needed. So there's that. I will say the movie is also really, really short. Now, to the movie's credit, this is both a positive and a negative going for the movie. The movie's just very, very quick healed. Like, it's like 80 minutes, just the same as the original, and it feels that way. None of this movie drags, which is amazing. This movie is just, getting into the positives here, despite this being part of the negatives, it's just fun and entertaining and just breezes through 80 minutes painlessly. But this movie, I feel like, had a lot on the cutting room floor, and just a lot of it feels cut. And yeah, just case in point, like, Andy's supposedly in school. You never get any sequences of him interacting with kids at school. I feel like some scenes are just cut very short, and there's some weird edits here and there. I feel like this movie could have utilized tension a little bit more. This movie felt like it was just very, like, it just wanted to breeze through it. And it's not a bad thing, but you can just tell that this movie is just all sorts of cut up, which is kind of distracting. Again, I feel like the characters are also just, in that very short runtime, the characters are just not as fleshed out as they should be. The kids just don't feel, as genuine. To the movie's credit, at least they made Andy have a hearing aid. But it doesn't really do anything in the end. So yeah, just to basically just sum that up, it feels like a cynical crash grab. The movie also doesn't feel like it lives up to its full potential. There's missteps with Chucky. It just doesn't feel right in that sense. And the acting could be a little better. The story could definitely be better. Overall, the movie isn't needed. Now, with that being said, despite me talking mostly about the negatives, let me get into the positives about this, because this is where I have the most fun. This movie has some pretty inventive, brutal kills. One in particular with a saw where you just see the dismembered leg. That's pretty gory and pretty fun, I'm not gonna lie. It's a fun death. I know that sounds weird to say, but, I would say if you are not that big into horror movies, if you're scared of them, this isn't a bad movie to start off with. Yes, it's gory. Yes, it's bloody. It can be a bit, uncanny. It can be a little bit disturbing when you get, the look of the Chucky doll. It can be a little bit wonky and kind of a bit weird looking, but it's not overly scary. It has suspense, but it's not like frightening stuff that's going to give you nightmares. Like, it's nothing like that. It can get under your skin, but it's not that scary. So yeah, this movie has some pretty brutal kills, and in my honest opinion, they're probably the funnest part of the movie. This movie has a lot of moments like that. One in particular, there's a sequence near the third act. Actually, it's the third act. It's the finale. It's the only good part in the movie, I feel like. And it's cut really short, and it follows up with a very brief, short fight with Chucky, and then the movie just ends. But anyway, before the fight with Chucky, you get a fight or a chaotic mess of a sequence of Chucky wreaking havoc in a store filled with children, parents, and employees, one of which gets stabbed in the throat and bleeds all over a little child. Make of that what you will. It's pretty freaking darkly humorous, and I don't want to spoil who it is because it's a character that you don't really like. And Chucky just puts razor blades on a drone, and then he just goes wild, and you have a bunch of... And this is where I feel like the movie doesn't live up to potential, because this movie has stuffed Chucky dolls, basically. The doll in this movie is called a Buddy doll, and they made a bear version of that, and you see the bear version attacking it, and it's kind of fun. It's really gnarly. As little as you see of it, and as little carnage as you see, it's still a inventive moment that I feel like this movie could have really succeeded. And yeah, the movie casually tosses in the sequel bait, which, I'm not gonna lie, I would kill to see a sequel. No pun intended. I would love to see a sequel to this movie. I feel like this movie does deserve a sequel, because I'm intrigued to see. I feel like in a sequel they can explore a lot more, they can extend it, just establish this movie a little bit more. But that sequence is pretty fun. Sequence in a watermelon patch is really cool. Like, there is some really fun death scenes here. There's a lot of cool moments, but they're very few and far between, and as brief as the runtime is, they don't happen for that long, and they're over as soon as they began. Mark Hamill does a killer making another pun, does an awesome job as Chucky. As always, he voiced the Joker, for crying out loud. Of course he does good as Chucky. And yeah, the movie's just overall entertaining and fun. And that's what I feel like what made me like it. I know a lot of people hated it, but when I watched it, I just had fun. I liked the movie. I didn't understand what the hate was about. The last thing I want to mention before I wrap this up, turns out the movie released the same date as Toy Story 4, so the marketing campaign for this movie just shows Chucky essentially killing all of Andy's toys in pretty creative, funny fashion as movie posters. And they're really fun. They're really goofy. I guess you could say this is, our version of, or 2019's version of, Barbenheimer. I'm shocked that a whole lot of people didn't start this trend when those two movies came out. The Toy Wars or something. I'm pretty sure they did. I have to look back on my memes from 2019. I'm sure there was something there, but not as big as Barbenheimer. Honestly, that freaking meme's already dead, but still kind of fun nonetheless. But yeah, anyway, I think this movie's pretty good, and I feel like the people that hate it, I get it. I understand. I initially did not think this movie was great, but you know what? I had fun with it. I eventually grew on it. So, I feel like, give it a watch. It's a pretty decent movie. It might be better than you remember, or if you haven't seen it before, and you're somewhat of a huge fan of Chucky, go ahead, give it a watch. I know the creators of Chucky also voiced their opinions on it, and I can't say that I really deny their opinions. I really do appreciate what they did say. Basically, that they just do not condone the remake. They completely deny that it existed. And yeah, it is a bit nasty, the fact that it felt very backhandish when they offered Andy Muschietti, the creator of Chucky, an executive producer. Like, hey, we know you created this, so let's just offer you this. Like, it just felt like it didn't feel right to me. So I understand why they were frustrated with this, and I get it. They don't even want a sequel of this movie. But I feel like, give it a watch. You might like it, you might not. I can't enforce your opinion. I'm just voicing what I saw with this movie and what I thought of it. Anyway, that's about it. Take it easy. Happy Halloween. Have fun.